Yes, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jack Farmer, his name is Andy Rossi, and this is the Evolution of Movies show. Andy, what are you drinking there?
Oh, this is a nice, delicious Spindrift.
Spindrift, what a refreshing drink and way to kick the show off. You know, if you're a fan of Spindrift, you should let them know that they need to sponsor this show because we're giving out free advertising for them here on the show.
Send it our way.
Spindrift, why don't you send us some free stuff already? Why don't you?
Jeez.
Very confrontational as a spokesperson.
Yeah, you're being a little aggressive.
Well, I'm crabby because if you're on the YouTube version, you can see my camera's not working. I'm using the old laptop camera, so it looks all grainy and unprofessional. Like a loser. Well, Andy, we got a fun episode. And of course, as always, something we started this season, we always bring on special guests. And this week is no different. I'm very excited to bring on our special guest this week. And it is none other than Santi. Santi, how are you, buddy?
Doing fantastic. Just getting settled with the change in climate in LA that I was not expecting.
Yeah, LA, it's funny. It's hot, then it's cold and rainy, and then that's just how it goes. There's no fall here. I'm from Seattle, where you get a good 6 months of fall before winter starts.
Yeah, I'm from Portland, so I'm right on there with you. I'm totally familiar with that. It felt a little too familiar today.
See, Andy's from Chicago, so he's like, there should be ice everywhere.
Yeah, we just have winter for a long time.
Well, Santi, thanks so much for being on. I know you're a busy person, and what are some of the things you've got cooking today? You've been growing your social media platform lately, have you not?
Yeah, no, I've just been working on branching out. What I'm really trying to promote is just people understanding one another and communicating. There's a lot of opposites, you or I, a lot of less working together. So I'm really trying to push people to feel more comfortable in themselves, look at some changes within themselves, and then ideally maybe start branching out and spreading that energy around. So that's really what all I'm trying to do.
Very cool. It's always good to help understand one another and understand ourselves. And I think in this is a case, we got a movie today where someone understands someone else so well, they take over their life. Let's talk about the movie. This is the Evolution of Movies, by the way. This is the name of the show. We call it the Evolution of Movies because we watch a movie and then we chat about it book club style, but we always pick a movie that came out 1 year after the last movie we watched. So we started in 1980, went to 1981, 1982. Now we're all the way up to the year 2013, which still sounds like the future for some reason.
Yeah.
But it was back in a time when movie theaters had hits like American Hustle, Now You See Me, and of course, After Earth, starring the Smiths. But we aren't talking about any of those. We're talking about Identity Thief, a movie IMDb describes as mild-mannered businessman Sandy Patterson travels from Denver to Florida to confront the deceptively harmless-looking woman who has been living it up after stealing Sandy's identity. Santi, had you seen this movie before, and what were your thoughts going into it this time around?
I had seen it before. I love both of the actors, Jason Bateman and Melissa McCarthy. This time around, though, the identity theft side of it hit a little bit more. Just thinking of the process, I was like, wow, this is a joke, but this is happening to people all the time. And so it made it a little less lighthearted in those moments. But then, of course, Melissa McCarthy comes in and then Jason Bateman comes in and it completely dissolves all of that. It's like magic.
Yeah, Andy, Melissa McCarthy was having a moment during this time in American and world history. She was kind of everywhere and crushing things. She's kind of like a little Adam Sandler run, we'll call it. What were your thoughts of this one? And of course, that'll lead us right into, can you guess the Rotten Tomato score?
Yeah, so this was written by Craig Mazin, who I listen to his podcast Script Notes, which is awesome. I love the show. So I was really excited to watch this movie. And I don't think it was that great, to be honest with you. And I don't think critics did as well. Like Santi said, some great comedic people leading the movie, Melissa McCarthy and Bateman. So I expected a little bit better quality movie. But it was fun to watch. But I don't think critics thought it was great either. So I'm gonna go. I don't know how low, but I'm gonna go. I'll go like 30, 38. How about 38?
38 would make it on the lower end
Yeah,
for sure. I think
I
that
feel like
puts it right
feel like that's too
around
low.
Flash Gordon and Kroll levels. Now, where was Andy? Where was Jason Bateman at this point in his career? This was like post Arrested Development, but pre movie run, right? Was this like one of his
Yep.
first movies?
Pre-game night, pre whatever that movie was at Ryan Reynolds.
Right.
I think. Yeah, he was knocking it out pretty good too, though, around this time, I think.
Yeah, he had a bunch. He also had Bad Words, where he was the spelling contest.
Yeah, I feel like I went too low on this one. I feel bad now, but I guess we'll see what happens.
You want to? Well, you haven't, and you can change. We haven't locked.
I can edit. Okay, you haven't locked it in. Good to know. Yeah, I'm gonna go a little higher. I'll go 48. I feel a little bad.
40?
I feel like I went too low, but then I was really, I was being
48
too mean, I think.
is obviously on the bad side, but it's respectable. Now, Santi, the game is you have to decide whether or not you think the actual score is higher or lower than the 48.
I think it's going to be a little bit higher. I know that the critics are probably, as Andy said, had a little bit more high hopes for it, but
Yeah.
based with the performances by both Jason Bateman and McCarthy, probably a little bit higher, just a little bit.
A little bit higher than 48. You guys really believe in the tour de force performances from these two. Rotten Tomatoes has it sitting at 19%, making it possibly. I think it's the lowest score we've ever reviewed.
Oh my god!
I don't know.
Right. It beat Kroll. I went back and checked Kroll because I was like, "Is this?" I think this is the lowest.
Bad?
I think this is the lowest rated movie we've ever reviewed.
Well.
I think the Scorpion King has it beat.
Oh yeah, Scorpion King is in the 40s. That's why I went to the 40s because I'm like, well, it's better than Scorpion King. But
No,
wow, I should have did the opposite of what I did.
I'm clearly out of touch with Rotten Tomatoes scoring, to be honest.
19,
That's really low, though.
That is, I think it is the lowest one we've ever done. So I remember when it came out, I saw it, and I thought it gave me a good giggle. I wasn't blown away, but I giggled a little bit for it. So I was kind of excited to come back and see how it aged, and it aged. There's some age to it. Got some smile lines now. But let's break it down. Before we break it down into all of its individual pieces, I always like to say thank you to everybody who is listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, or if you're watching on YouTube, or if you have it on YouTube but you minimized it and you're listening on YouTube, that's cool too. Hit the like button, share, comment, subscribe, everything that I ask you to do over and over and over again on every single show. Just do it already. Why am I still asking you?
I like the specific, though. Somebody that is minimizing YouTube right now is like, hey, thanks, man.
Yeah. If you're minimizing YouTube and listening to it on a second screen, you better hit the like button. I'm talking to you, Charles. So
come on, Chuck.
Let's get into this movie. All right, guys. So we start, and Sandy gets a call from the fraud department, but it's not the fraud department. It's a phony, a big phony. Now that she has Sandy's information, the phony heads to the bar, acting as Sandy, and buys everyone drinks and parties. She tries to swing from the chandelier, and a total dick of a bartender tells her she has no friends, and then she gets arrested. Meanwhile, the real Sandy is celebrating his birthday with his family, and his pregnant wife talks with him about not getting bonuses and being poor because he's in the financial industry. Santi, tell us about these characters and the world they live in.
I mean, Sandy's definitely a lovable guy. He loves his family, but it seemed a little silly that he would be coerced into giving his information as easily as he did, being that he is in the financial industry. That was kind of the first thing. It was like, kind of just play along. You're like, okay, whatever. This is setting up the plot. And then, oh my gosh. Wait, what Melissa McCarthy's character?
I literally call her phony in this entire rundown. So
okay, well, I mean, yes,
Diana, I think.
because she
That's
gives
the
the name, but
closest.
you know that's not her real name.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna call her a phony, a big phony.
Then phony is just a hot mess, to be honest, just all over the place. If the movie came out a little bit later, I feel like they would have thrown in Wrecking Ball from Miley Cyrus in that film, and then the record would have just ended, and it would have been over. But she's definitely hustling, doing what she believes she has to do to survive, and so that's how she's justifying everything. But yeah, it's just everything starts with a pretty big bang with that bar scene for sure.
Yeah, and it was one of those moments where you realize you just have to take things as it is when he's on the phone with her. And he's like, "Oh, okay, I'll give you all my information." Right away, they say, "You know what? Don't ask questions. Just roll with it." I want to talk to you. This is a little funny thing that piqued me a little bit was how they're like, "Oh, poor Sandy working in the financial industry."
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I don't feel bad for you.
Yeah.
Poor guy, get out of here.
Great job, great kids, great wife, great suits. Yeah.
I did pop pretty hard though when she barfed on the breathalyzer.
Oh yeah, that was a good one. How did I do? That was the one.
Oh, she comes in real hot. I love Melissa McCarthy, just like her crazy hair and just like how fun would it be to be at a bar with Melissa McCarthy just going all. It reminded me of like old school like SNL character or something like a Chris Farley, something like that where he's just like crazy lunatic. So I love that, and I love pairing the two together like Planes, Trains, and Automobiles or something from back in the day.
It really felt like that for sure.
Didn't it? Yeah, I thought so too. The one thing I wanted to see if you guys noticed. Did you notice they really tried to jam it down our throats that Sandy Patterson was Bateman? They say the name Sandy Patterson so many times. Even at his birthday, she says, "Happy birthday, Sandy Patterson." It just made me laugh because all my life, my wife has never come up to me and been like, "Happy birthday, Andy Rossi." Like, that would just be so weird.
That's true. That is super odd.
And I love how every single person feels like they need to let him know that that's a girl's name. It's so stupid. But was Melissa McCarthy on SNL ever? She seems like she'd be perfect for that show.
So there was not a reunion, or it was like a whatever many decades it was, and she played a Chris Farley character. That's one of her idols. So she wasn't one of the cast members, but she was there for that show to kind of reenact that whole era of Chris Farley.
Yeah.
There was a very important story beat here, though, where the jerk bartender, who, by the way, total jerk. She's buying drinks for everyone. He's getting taken care of. They're having a great time, party of the century, and he's like, "No one's your friend." Like, I don't know why. I don't know why he's such a jerk, but that is the story beat there. And Santi, I want to send this to you about how they're already telling us in the beginning that she doesn't have real friends.
Mm-hmm.
And just setting us up for that as the movie goes forward.
Yeah, they're really trying to build some empathy for this character for sure, because she's doing all of these wild things, no regard for anybody else. But you kind of have to build some sort of emotion towards her. So I get it. But yeah, that was way uncalled for. None of these people are your friends.
Like, who does that? Because you're like, this is a bar. I'm supposed to be having a good time. Everyone's excited. Like, no one likes you.
Like, it took me back to like the schoolyard, like elementary school days or something.
Like, did he wait till you get the tip first, bartender, before you're a jerk? In any case, the movie rolls on, and Sandy gets to work in his ivory tower, and he's presented in a way that makes him seem very good at his job, but his boss is getting a bonus, and Sandy is not. While writing the bonus checks, Sandy gets a call from a hair salon. What? But he has no time to deal with that. There's a walkout. He quits his job and he joins with the startup. Meanwhile, the phony is at the mall still buying stuff, and Sandy realizes that he has been identity thiefed. His bank is no help, and he gets arrested because he missed a court date in Florida, but he's in Denver. Anyways, he finds out what's going on when they get to the phony's mugshot, and he eventually gets to head to work. But somehow His boss also has all of his personal information, like credit scores and payment details. No wonder he got his identity stolen. Who doesn't know this guy's info? The cops stopped by Sandy's new job, and now his new job may already be his old job. But Sandy says, I'll get you the phony and I'll get her to confess. His wife protests, but he won't be deterred. Andy, I have to ask you this question. If this happened to you, would your wife let you go on a road trip to bring the person to confess?
Absolutely not. No, I'm still confused. And I even brought this up to my wife. We didn't watch it together. I just said, hey, can you watch this one part? When Amanda Peet straddles him to start talking to him seriously, it's like right in the beginning. I noticed that happens in movies. In my life, that's never happened. And we were going, hey, Stephanie. And she like straddles me and then we talk. So here's the deal. Blah, 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 blah. I just thought that was such a weird thing that I see that happens in other movies. But Amanda Peet was just way too understanding at this whole movie. Just ridiculous. But speaking of like supporting characters, we have Harold and Kumar is got a supporting character of John Cho, I think is his name.
Yeah.
But Jon Favreau, so great as that dick boss. I wrote it down. He calls him cheese dick at one point. But he is so despicable. But I wanted to see. I wish we would have saw more Favreau. I wanted to see Favreau like react to the circumstances later on. I thought they'd bring him back, but apparently they probably just had him for like a day or two, and that was all they could get from him. But I thought he did a great job.
Yeah, I would be okay with like a spin-off of him as this character, because if you didn't know him, you would think that's how he was. He actually nailed this role. But Santi, I got to ask you, how would you rate the plan on a scale of 1 to 10? If you're, let me put this way, if your friend comes up to you and is like, hey, I've been identity thiefed, my plan is to drive to Florida and get them to come back and confess. Because I was like, this is the dumbest idea I've ever heard.
This is an identity thief that's like already doing something despicable, and you're gonna go get them.
Yeah, 1 to 10, I'd be like, that plan's going in the trash. Like, it needs to go in the garbage right now. We need to brainstorm. There, like, just off of the top of your head, I'm sure there's so many more options. It was terrible, but just had to set everything up.
It was funny though, Santi, like looking back on it, one of the reasons I love this show is we go back and we go through the years and you can kind of see the times change over the course of these movies. And it's so funny today, if fraud happened, you would call your bank, they'd cancel it, reverse the charge. It'd be a 10-minute phone call. But here, the bank, which I feel like wasn't that long ago, I feel like banks were better about this even back then, but there's like, nope, on your own.
Even the guy that cut his card, I'm like, I've never heard of that. Like, you go to like a liquor store, and the guy's
it's like an old. I think there's like an old
yeah.
thing
Yeah, it's something they used to do back in the old days. I say the old days, like
in the 2013,
in 2005, back at the turn of the century. But yeah, it was just funny though, Sandy. Just I would love to get your input and your thoughts on how much time has changed since just less than 10 years ago. Like, one, he was writing checks for the bonuses. He was, of course, the fraud department. Just kind of overall what it's like watching a movie like this, where you see like, why doesn't he have an iPhone to deal with this? Yeah.
Yeah, I question a lot of things. If I remember, when was the year that the movie came out? I want to say that
2013. So 9 years ago.
So the technology was there. So it did throw me off. I feel like I went maybe 40 minutes away, went to a Trader Joe's that I don't normally go to, and I got a message that my card was denied because it didn't know it was me. So, I mean, just geographically, the bank has a much bigger handle on everything. But yeah, as far as writing the checks, I mean, and everything's going direct deposit these days.
Especially a wave runner in Florida. You live in Colorado. Like, you would think maybe like the first wave runner purchase, maybe let that go. But then like after that, all the other crap she was buying, like what bank was he at? Yeah. They're just like, that seems fine.
Yeah, and again, this is a guy in the financial industry.
Yeah, exactly.
who I don't know exactly what his job is, but
Had a lot of room
he
on those credit cards, that's for sure.
yeah, that's what I was thinking.
This
If you're
guy's the
buying
limit.
like wave runners on one credit, like multiples, and still doing all the other stuff,
Yeah.
okay.
I just like how you phrased it, the first wave runner.
Right.
I'm guessing there was more.
The first one.
There's got to be more than one wave
Yeah.
runner.
Yeah, you need one for your friend.
Of
Solo
course.
wave runner?
Yeah.
Lame.
Who wave runs by themselves?
Yeah.
So Sandy eventually finds the phony and follows her before she gets him to rear end her, but he exposes her plan and they fight with the phony leaving Sandy in her totaled car. Sandy's wife calls to report that a debt collector is calling her. Like, no duh, lady, get with the program. That's the entire reason he's on the trip. But it helps Sandy find the phony's address. Sandy goes to the phony's house and fool me twice, they fight again. When Sandy finally starts talking to the phony, two people come in, guns blazing, and Sandy and the phony are on the run. Sandy explains his plan to have the phony confess, but says it will only be to his boss and that there will be no cops. In prison, the guy from Breaking Bad says he wants Sandy and the phony killed because the phony also stole the criminal's identity. Santi, you got to walk me through some of these fight scenes and just how ridiculously physical they get.
Yeah, so I mean, starting off on the side of the road when Sandy approaches the phony and he's just thinking like, "Hey, we're gonna talk this out. It'll be fun to have this plan." And then the direct shot to the neck, the right to the neck every single time, just kind of sets everything off. And then she proceeds to badger him, gets in his car. She doesn't leave the keys in her car, and then pushes him into the side rail. I was like, this got out of hand. Like got a
time to go back to Colorado.
Yeah,
exactly. And then at the house, the thing that got me that I felt was kind of downplayed. Doesn't he hit her with like a bat? Like it's like a long object to like get her to stop under. You're like, oh yeah, that's what it was, a guitar. As terrible as it is, it's like the Home Alone days. Like the more intense it is, the more hilarious it looks on camera. You get the sound of the guitar, but yeah, that was wild.
I think he throws a toaster at her.
Yeah, he does.
At her head. Yes.
She's tough. As we see throughout the whole movie, she gets hit with a lot of stuff and she just keeps going.
I will forever be a fan of just physical humor. I don't care. It's just, and I love because Sandy comes in strong, like, yeah, I caught you. I know who you are. So game over. Yeah. She's like, bah!
Yeah. Yeah, the throat punch is great. It was used several times in this movie, and I was thinking that's a good move. That would throw me off, that's for sure. But
like
yeah,
the pain, the not being able to breathe, and the pure shock of like I just got throat punched. Like,
yeah, right, yeah. Like what just happened?
I got a couple throat punches, Bateman.
I would have given up so hard in that moment. I'd be like, you know what? I've definitely overstepped my bounds.
I'll change my name. You keep Sandy.
Exactly. I'd be done.
Andy, okay, I need you to maybe do a little bit of acting for me here. I want you to put yourself in the shoes of Sandy.
Yeah.
And you just got punched in the throat. You just got almost ran off the side of the road. And your wife calls you and says, did you know there are debt collectors reaching out to us right now? And you're in Sandy's shoes. That's why you left. That's the whole point. You're there.
Yeah.
How do you respond to that phone call?
Throw the phone out the window. That's it. Yeah, that part, I was so confused. I'm like, didn't he tell her all this? I was thinking throughout a lot of this movie that I was missing scenes or something. There was actually an unrated version on Amazon that I chose not to watch because it was 10 minutes longer. I wanted the shortened one. But T.I. and the Latin gal that he's with, I don't understand that at all. Like I don't even know what happens to them in the end. I think you take them out of this movie, the movie's fine. Like they're just, and Mike Ehrmantraut from Breaking Bad, like him too. Like it's great that he's got his cameo in jail, but none of that really matters. Like I was kind of like, what is the point of this? But I do think what Santi was saying, the part with the guitar and the toaster That was probably my favorite part. I love like the Three Stooges type, kind of stuff. So that was great. But yeah, some of that I was like, did I miss something? Why do we need Ti? I don't know.
I
Oh,
very much think that was Ti at like trying to get into movie because I think during this time he was trying to get into a few movies, right?
He had some good lines.
He
he
actually
did.
did pretty good, I
Mhm.
thought.
He did well. It was just his character didn't really have enough to go off of. He also did ATL around that time, or a little prior to that, where he had a much
Yeah.
bigger role. But I think
Mhm.
this was him trying to branch off something. But just so you know, Andy, that 10 minutes didn't provide anything. It provided no extra content.
You watched the unrated one?
It
Watch,
was
there's
just
like this Oscar caliber performance by Melissa McCarthy during this.
yeah, it must have been in the cut scenes because I didn't see it. I didn't see
It was, but yeah, it was very, yeah, you could have definitely taken the Breaking Bad guy out,
Mhm.
100%. But yeah, I guess you didn't really need the other
Well,
two because
well, what it did, it binds them together. So it gets them to start working together sooner because you have like the bounty hunter, right? That comes a little bit later in the picture. They probably could have had him come sooner, but because there's these other two characters attacking them, it causes Sandy and the phony, I think, to join in that moment where they just were fighting. The toaster was thrown, the guitar was hit, and then now they're getting shot at. So now they're forced to work together. Maybe that's what it was. I don't know.
I thought they were the cops at first, and
Me
then
too.
when
Yeah.
I saw the Breaking Bad guy, I was like, "Oh, they're not." But I thought they were impersonating cops, so I thought, "Oh, Sandy's going to try to turn her
Mm.
into them, and that'll be the story." But no, that
I
was not the
mean,
story.
dumbest cops ever over in Colorado. How he's like, I'm fairly certain it's not you. It's like everything that could possibly be not him. He's in Colorado. Somebody's buying wave runners in Florida. He's like, but I gotta make sure. I'm
You
like,
know,
I'm like, come on, man.
I'm glad you circled back to that because that was one of my favorite bits. Where it's like, you know what? We actually have a pretty high percentage of solving these. It's like, oh, so what's the percentage? 3 to 5%. It's like dead serious. It's like, oh, that doesn't sound good at all.
No.
But it's actually probably a very realistic
Yeah.
True.
number.
I like
So
how they just send him down. He's like, I have this idea to go get her in Florida. It's like, cops like, okay, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, it kind
sure.
of works. They didn't send him with backup or
No.
any type of protection. Just like, yeah, good luck, man.
Like I said, they at least set the tone early that you just got to roll with it. Just roll with it.
Mhm.
Whatever they do, you just go, okay, we're gonna
Yeah, I
do
mean,
that.
I do like that it's called Identity Thief, and we're right. I mean, right when the movie starts, you're right into it. So
Yeah.
they did a good job getting you going.
So we had mentioned the bounty hunter, and he comes up next. After the phony explains that they can't fly to Denver, they decide to drive, and it's a road trip movie. But Peacemaker's dad is called, and he's on the trail like he's the T-1000 going after John Connor. See what I did there?
Right.
Mhm.
The two Sandys sing songs, and they grab a couple of soups before getting to a motel, but not before the phony heads to the foxhole to pick up Big Chuck, where they bring Big Papa Huge Time over, and he makes phony feel the thunder. Andy, walk us
Walk
through
us
the
through the
sex
sex
scene.
scene. It's a good one. Yeah, it was actually the second time my wife peeked in on TV to see what I was watching. You're like, "What are you watching?"
Of
Just
course.
the Modern Family Guy, just doing Melissa McCarthy. Part was great. Big Chuck was an awesome character. I really enjoyed him, and how
Yeah.
he kind of broke down for a second too.
Yeah.
I thought that was a good scene. It wasn't very sexy, but nice and physical. I think they
I'm a,
both got what they were looking for.
Andy, you're in dangerous waters. I'm about to start having you rate the sex scenes in these movies going
I'm
forward.
gonna give this one a B.
So, but you're right. I think that the guy from Modern Family, Big Chuck, was in these road trip movies. They meet characters along the way, and I think he is a perfect character you meet along the way kind
Mm.
of character for a road trip. But I want to go back a little bit, Santi. I want you to kind of walk us through this waitress and diner scene where they get a couple of soups, and we see the phony tell a little story
Ooh.
about Sandy Patterson.
What got me about Sandy's character is he didn't even care. He wasn't trying to defend himself at all. I mean, she was totally making it out to be like he abused her, that they were together, and he just didn't play into it at all. I was like, wow, like that's a bold move by the phony's character. But for Sandy to just be like, no, I'm not even going to buy into this, not even address this at all. Man, I'd be freaking out, to be honest. I'd be like, no, I didn't, I didn't know. But yeah, the fact that they got a free suit because he didn't say anything, by him not saying anything, he kind of played into that character. Or it wasn't just soup; it was like a whole buffet, right?
Yeah, she got ribs.
Right.
She got.
He didn't want to spend money though, so he said we're just getting soups,
Mhm,
which is funny to me for some reason. But
I don't know. I felt like you could. Yeah, no, that was an odd choice, but yeah, that threw me off. It made me cringe a little bit just because of how nonchalant he was about. I'm sticking just to the soups, not going to address that.
Another cameo there by the waitress. That's Erin from The Office.
yeah,
Kimmy Schmidt. Her name was Flo. I noticed on her name tag.
Nice.
She was great. I love the little bit about her giving him the soup with her thumb in it. That was
Oh yeah, though.
That was a nice little touch. But Andy, this is something I know you've made movies, and I love. This was a funny thing. I don't know if you noticed this, but when they were at the bar at the Foxhole and everyone's dancing, I don't know if you noticed, but the people who were there were literally from like all walks of life. There was like a old biker. There was like a younger person that looked like they were about to go play basketball. There was like
nice.
Like there's no continuity of what kind of bar that was supposed to be.
It was grab whatever wardrobe you want from the wardrobe truck.
I think it literally was.
I didn't notice that. That's great. I thought Big Chuck's wardrobe was awesome, and I think he first starts talking to her. He says something about a milkshake. Do you like milkshakes?
Yeah.
So weird. I loved it.
I like my favorite Big Chuck moment was when he was using his belt like an elephant trunk.
Oh, yeah, that was
good.
good.
Just like woo, woo.
That was good. Yeah.
Lasante, we do get a very good character moment here where the phony is about to run off, but then she sees Sandy's kids call and she gets that emotional feeling for whatever reason that keeps her there. We are seeing a little bit of character development from the phony during all this.
Definitely. I think it also plays into how she talks about going from not really having a place of her own, not even knowing her own name. And then she understands that even though she's trying to protect herself, Sandy's a great guy. He's there for his kids. She always wanted that. There's many a times where she acts like she's flirting with him, but then other times I almost seeing him as more of like a cousin or even a father figure sometimes, because he's nurturing. Even when she does all of these acts to make him hate her, he still is like, you're still a person. I kind of get why you're doing these things. It's not what I would do, but I mean, I get that. So she comes back, has a moment, and then it's just funny how she comes back. She said she's like, oh, I went to go get some ice, but she had her backpack on and stuff when she came back into the room. So it's like, no, you were trying to leave for sure.
They did a good job of having her leave and come back though, because it was like I was fooled. I thought, oh, she's realizing her ways, so she's gonna, not do that. And then she not only leaves but locks Bateman in the room with the belt, and I'm like, oh man, she's even worse than I thought. But then she comes back.
I loved the way he came barreling through that door to get out, and how
great.
Big Chuck doesn't even stir from it. He just stays face down. Because again, in this movie, you go, whatever, man.
It's so funny. I think the part I laughed the most, because I'm a child, but when she comes back, it goes in the bed and then pulls the sheets, and you see his naked butt. It's so stupid. It's so funny though. So they didn't need that, but somebody's like, hey, let's leave that in there.
It was appreciated.
It was.
There is
Glad I wasn't the only one.
No fruit hung too low for this movie, which is always great. So while checking out of the motel, the skip tracer, as he calls himself, takes the phony, and we get a car chase. After rolling the van, they steal it. The van eventually breaks down, so the duo go walking through the woods and camping out while fighting snakes. The phony eventually carries Sandy to a bus station where they decide to skip waiting and buy a car to drive the rest of the way. Meanwhile, the two henchmen meet Big Chuck and get to the bus station where they find the skip tracer. They shoot him and continue on after the two main characters. Santi, this car chase, we talked about the physical comedy. I didn't remember seeing this, but this car chase was so much more physical than I expected it to be in this movie.
I was thinking the exact same thing. I was like, I remember I watched this movie in the movie theater, and I was like, I do not remember this car chase at all. A lot of the other physical things too, it just tied in. I was like, wow, they've got fights, car chases, like this movie's all over the place. But in that moment, I wasn't mad at it, to be honest. It brought some excitement into it. The Tracer, that name's very ridiculous. By the way, I always forget that actor's name.
It's T-1000.
T-1000. Well, T-1000, what was that? He had a line that was
dad.
Peacemaker's dad. What was the line he said when he left like the salon at one point? I just have to bring this up. It was like, you have a unforgettable face. And then he said something about like, forget this one. I was like, that is intense. Like to have somebody leave.
Oh, he's so intense.
Yeah.
And then the car chase was like, okay, it's only suitable that with that intensity, he would be willing to do everything, including roll the crap out of his van.
Didn't he yell out to like, Sandy's a girl's name during the chase?
Yes. And he's like, well, it's both. And I love how afterwards, I never felt more like a Melissa McCarthy when afterwards she's like, you said you're my friend. And he's like, you're not my friend. Like, you said you have my friend in your van.
That's right.
But yeah, T-1000, I'm kind of glad. I hope we get to see more of him in movies because he is such a intimidating person.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that scene in the salon, like the whole time, like what a tense like way to do things. And I like how he threatens without going over the top. Like she's like, I can't give you the information. I like how he just kind of pours the thing out and drops it. It's like, you know where this is gonna go. Just give me the information.
He does it so cool too. Pours out what is that, barbicide, and then this has that Zippo lighter. I'm like, I could never pull that off in a million years. I'd probably cut my finger on the barbicide. My lighter wouldn't light.
You'd be like, oh, I spilled on myself, and you like jump back a little bit, and then like you try to light it, and it
light myself on fire.
But this is where Andy, you see a little bit more of them being like friends and I guess kind of working together. Andy, I got to tell you, I picked this movie. This movie to review.
Yeah, I know.
And Sonny, just so you know, I think if you were to take the lowest 5 movies we've watched, they were all picked by yours truly, the lowest ranked Rotten Tomatoes. I picked this movie, Andy. You'll appreciate it. Sonny, you'll actually appreciate this too. Because my beautiful girlfriend, Emerald Monzon, could not stop laughing at the spot when Melissa McCarthy was hitting him in the nuts with the stick. That scene is why we watched this movie. So, Andy, walk us through the
snake balls. Yeah. That was hilarious. I mean, all the physical humor is so funny. Like I said, I'm a child. I laugh at butt cheeks. I laugh at penis, penis stuff. And they did a good job. Like we talked about Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. That movie's so funny, but it has like a lot of heart to it. And this was like, obviously not as good as that movie, but they gave you like the physical funny humor, and then you find out she carried him to that bus station. So I thought that was nice how you had like the hilarious that snake, by the way, continuity wise, at least, it looked like a smaller snake that went into his pants, and then it was around his neck. I'm like, is that an anaconda? It was like this huge snake. Is that an anaconda? And then I saw the snake.
But there was you're right, there was the heart, but it was also kind of funny. I was like, I just carried you half a mile. Like, jeez.
No big deal.
She's so strong. She's like a, I don't know, NFL fullback.
He's like, where'd you get these clothes? Things. He's like, oh, I got him off the Dead Hope.
That was funny. Yeah, this shoes.
Oh, someone died in these.
The pants looked hilarious too.
It was so funny.
I like that he doesn't bring up that. Well, somebody lived in these as well, just the side to everything. And then the snake bite was so clean. It was so clean. Like when he wakes up, like it looks really intense, and then it's just like the 2 circles, I mean, he's a little bit dirty, but
Yeah.
yeah, that was wild. The pants look comfortable. I'm not gonna lie, they look
Yeah.
comfy.
They did look comfy. I do also like that we are seeing a little bit of a battle between the two racing to get the main characters. I think that's kind of a cool twist to it. To your point earlier, Andy, I don't think it mattered, but it was okay. They're seeing who's gonna win.
Mhm.
Let me ask you, Andy, who would you rather chasing you, the two or the guy? Because the guy's scarier, but the other one, there's two of them.
I would definitely take my chance with Ti and the Latin gal for
Yeah,
sure. T1000 any movie he's in, I'm just like he's the T1000. He's gonna kill me. There's nothing I can do. He's gonna turn into whatever that metal is.
The
Like
liquid
if
metal.
I shoot him, he's just gonna turn into like a metal thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I as a young lad, I saw Terminator 2, and I will never forget watching him run and being like, "That is the most terrifying thing I've ever seen in my
Yeah.
life."
Yeah. I take my chances on the other two.
Oh, did
So,
I was gonna say,
go ahead.
didn't he also look like he could have just gone from this set and walked right into like The Walking Dead? I couldn't help but think that the
Absolutely.
entire time.
Yeah,
There was a lot of Walking Dead it looked like Walking Dead background for sure.
uh,
Especially at that bus stop. I'm like, what is this the worst bus stop ever? There's no one here. How's this guy
yeah,
have a job?
that's what I was thinking too. Like, what is the bus stop for? What do they
Yeah.
do there? Like,
What bus comes every 3 days?
right?
Right? Who am I? What am I? Where am I going?
Yeah, what a funny. He's like, well, actually, I'm their social media manager, but the ticket guy's not here. So our heroes are low on funds. So Sandy and the phony make a plan to rob from Harold Cornish. They pretend to be Harold and bully a poor employee and get Harold's credit card info. Using the boss's money, they get a fancy hotel, and then the phony gets laughed at before getting a makeover and before truly bonding with each other over dinner. The phony confesses she never knew her name and tells her story of never having anyone before the police come in and arrest Sandy for fraud. But the henchmen are there, and they get cut off by Peacemaker's dad. The phony breaks out of the police car and gets hit by the T-1000's car, but ultimately escapes, and all the bad guys get arrested, and Sandy realizes the phony just saved his life. Andy, I want to talk to you about T.I.'s acting. I thought he was actually pretty good.
Yeah.
My favorite bit from him
The
was when
trunk?
he says, "The trunk." Yes.
Yeah. So funny. Yeah.
You can't put me in a trunk. Click. I'm going to get in this trunk.
Yeah. I agree. I thought it was great.
That's the best. I thought T.I. just in general, I mean, he didn't have a role that would be a tour de force situation, but like, I thought he was good. Why aren't we seeing more T.I. in movies?
I don't know.
What you know about that?
What you know about that?
Yeah, what you know about
That was good. That was good.
Nice,
Yeah,
nice.
that was all like messy to me though. Like all the they had the dinner. It's nice. Like you have this nice makeover scene, and then the cops come, and Ti and the girl are there. T-1000's there. Like it's just this seems like a lot of stuff. Melissa gets hit with a car, and she's
Well, that was
fine.
Right?
Yeah, but she got blasted, and she just gets a. I like what she says. That she's like, it looked worse than it is, or something.
Yeah, you just gotta get
pretty,
loose in the legs.
It looked pretty bad.
It looked horrible.
Yeah,
and she does a throat punch, right? Right? Isn't that what she wakes up from being hit by the car and immediately throat punches?
The default.
Always on her guard.
It always works. It never not works. Like the whole time you're waiting for like one of these times she's gonna do it and it's not gonna work. It works every time.
Yeah,
the throat punch.
Yeah, it's funny each time too to me.
So Santi, though, I want to talk to you about when the phony opens up and she's like, "Hey, I've never had a name, didn't have a family." I want you to put yourself in your shoes when you first watched this movie. Did you believe her? Because I thought she was a big phony.
I don't know. I think at that moment I did believe her. At least I wanted to think, hey, well, she's been trying to build up all of this time, this kind of excuse to live the life that she had. So I don't know. In that moment, I did want to believe her. So I guess I would say I did. But there's always that little thing in the back of your mind saying it could be all a hoax, just as everything else seemed to be. But there'd been enough times in this movie where it was kind of going up and low. Like she could have left. She came back to the hotel. She could have not carried Sandy half a mile, carried Sandy half a mile. So you can kind of tell she was kind of looking out for him more, even when she banged the crap out of his nuts, trying to. She was still ultimately trying to help him.
I agree with you too, because I think right before that she shows her vulnerability because those people, which I'm glad they did what they did when those people are laughing at her at the spa. They could have just laughed and then that was it. Then she feels bad for herself. Instead, she says, "Help me." I thought that was sweet because she's like realizing, yeah, maybe I can get some help from people. And then, then she bears her soul to Bateman. I thought that was cool, but it was hilarious her doing the spray in the store. You don't think she's telling the truth still?
I didn't.
The 80s blowout.
Look, this is why I don't trust her.
Budgie? You don't trust Budgie?
This is why I don't trust Budgie, is because she was like, I never had a name. The first thing I say is like, yeah, but then what did people call you? They didn't call you nothing. They said, hey, phony, get over here. Right? But what did they call you? I don't care what your paper said.
They said, hey, you.
Say, like, tell me. I'd be so frustrated. I mean, I'm driving all over the country, getting shot at by T-1000s, and you can't even tell me the name people called you.
It is great. Speaking of T-1000, I was just looking in my notes. If you were to see this, you'd be like, what movie is this? I wrote, T-1000 arrives, shoots T.I. This seems ridiculous.
Then runs over Melissa McCarthy.
Yeah.
But what I do like is that I do really like that she saved Sandy, which then gives Sandy an actual, like, I do owe you one, as opposed to him just, because without that, then the movie ending we get would be very like, oh, you just changed your mind. But like, now that his life has been saved, there's a little bit of like, okay, I get that he would feel like, okay, I can't just throw this person in jail. So I from a story beat, I enjoyed that. But speaking of story beats, 900 miles to Denver, and the phony plays with her food at Sandy's house before explaining that she did not have sex with Sandy, and Sandy has second thoughts about turning the phony in. Doesn't matter. She turns herself in anyways. The phony says she's just going to get away anyway, so it's all good. And Sandy gets his office at work. Sandy's birthday rolls around, and this time he heads to prison to visit the phony, who is doing good in jail and could be hired by Sandy's firm when he's out. Also, her real name is Dawn Budgie. Santi, we get the nice, happy little bow on it ending. And for as silly as this movie is, they actually tie up all the loose ends pretty well.
They definitely did. I mean, she's kind of trying to turn things around. She's in prison now. She's taking classes, doing better. It almost feels like they're her mentors at that point, because she's like, hey, this is what I did. She's working with the Don, as we know now, is working with the wife and studying and everything. But the other thing too is, I kind of wondered, do you think they told Melissa McCarthy that the name was going to be Dawn Budgie before before that scene? Like, part of me kind of thinks the way that she reacted, she may have not known in that moment, because that's a hilarious name, to be honest.
Yes.
like the impact of seeing that a second time, like, it's funny, but to just see that, be like, dang, they got me with that one.
What's great about it too is it's so bad, but it's also not unrealistic. Like, it's not like some like her name's not like Farts Diesel or something. Like, it's
exactly.
It's like that's kind of a real name.
That's how they tied it.
First name and last name, Farts.
They just had to remind you, this is a silly movie. It's like, cute moment, Dawn Budgie, and then that's how you close it.
But for as much stuff in this movie that makes you go, okay, I guess we're just gonna let that slide. They could have said like they let her off or something, But they actually had her go to jail. I thought was nice. But Andy, I want you to talk through again. I want you to put yourself, if this was you, how would things go at your house if you traveled 900 miles with some lady and she spent a good 5 minutes explaining to your wife? You guys never hooked up.
That was hilarious. I guarantee Amanda Peet had to be cracking up at that scene. That's so funny. What did she say? Like the Bermuda Triangle right here?
Oh yeah, she said some people get lost in here And she's like physically, emotionally. That's what got me.
That was so fun. The other thing that really had me laugh was before that, such a small thing. She's sleeping in the car with her eyes open. Do you remember that part? She's like sleeping in the car, her eyes are open, and then Bateman just closes her eyes for her. I'm like, this is so funny. But yeah, I don't agree with you guys that it was tied up in a bow. Though.
I don't know if it's a bow.
What happened to T.I.? What happened to the Trout in jail? Like
they got arrested.
He just stays in jail, and then
that's how prison works.
And T.I. and the girl, they just go to jail.
Yeah,
T-1000, he just goes to jail. We don't actually see him go to jail, though, do we?
Everyone goes to jail except for Jason Bateman.
Yeah.
Jason Bateman puts everyone in jail, and he goes back to making nothing in the financial industry.
I do like how she does do one last throat punch, though. Like throat punch one of the
the guards,
security guards. Yeah, security guard.
Yeah. Well, I guess if we were gonna say it's tied up, maybe not tied up in a bow, but think of like takeout where you get a plastic bag and not all of the containers are perfect, but you tie it up, and so you have to strategically place it in your car. Otherwise,
wait, where's my rice?
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's tipping over. So I say it's like it's good enough. You don't have to go back to it. It's a one and done at that point.
That's so funny. That's so perfect. They might have missed a couple things. Wait, I forgot my rice.
That's you know what, and because of the way it's tied, and because of how bad the food is, you're like, I'm not gonna check. Like when you get it, you take out the drive-through. Like, you want to check, make sure everything's in there. Whatever, I just got to get out of here because I hate myself for ordering this. That's how this movie's tied up at the end.
Yeah, okay. That I agree with. Yeah,
you can carefully set it down; it'll open up again. But yeah, it wasn't.
That's so funny.
Yeah, I thought that this will kind of wrap things up. Santi, you get the last word as always as the guest. We always the guest get the last word. I guess final thoughts on this. It was not a great movie, but like if you're looking for something to just turn your brain off and have stupid stuff happen, I wasn't bored while I watched it. I didn't hate myself while I watched it. It was fine. It wasn't my favorite movie. I'll probably never watch it again, but I don't know. It killed a good hour and a half of my life. What about you, Andy?
Well, first, I love Jason Bateman. I love Melissa McCarthy. So having them two go back and forth was great. There's a lot of like good, funny parts in this movie. I just felt like when you really thought of it as a movie, I'm like, I don't know. It's just okay for me. But like you said, yeah, easy to watch. Like you could probably watch something else while this is on. Have another TV on.
You can have this podcast on while you're watching it.
Yeah.
In a minimized screen.
Yeah. So easy to watch. And what was it? An hour and 20? Or no, it was short. I think it was 100. Well, I think it was 120 minutes. So I guess it was about 2 hours, but it didn't go too long.
Yeah, it was broken up in a way that made it feel like it went by fairly quickly.
And the supporting characters were awesome. Like I love that. Like I love, like you said, like road trip movies. You want to see like what they see along the way, and they did a really good job of meeting all these characters that were all like pretty recognizable actors too.
Yeah. So that was fun. But Santi, what are your final thoughts on Identity Thief? 2013 biggest hit.
Overall, I mean, it's entertaining. Like such as Andy said, you could have it going on, do something else or watch something else while you have it rolling in the background. But I mean, if you're into Jason Bateman or Melissa McCarthy, I don't think you're gonna hate that you watched it. You'll be like, okay, it's done. But I mean, it's definitely entertaining. I'd say I would tell somebody to watch it just for the Big Chuck, like whole scenario, like that.
Yeah,
that was great. That was perfect. From the introduction of Big Chuck to when they moved to that other table and he's like, I'll be back. And then he goes and then he literally turns right around and is like, oh, I'm back, or whatever it is. It was just so silly. But the overall plot, it was okay. But I mean, there were some good laughs if you're into physical humor. Unnecessary car chases, things like that. I'd check it out or recommend it to somebody else, but maybe like on the back catalog. Like we've gone through everything else.
Bateman is the king of like that sarcastic, just like comebacks though. It's so funny. Like he's just so fast that people don't like catch it. One scene I forgot to talk about is him and the guy at the hotel, which is I think Melissa McCarthy's husband in real life.
Yeah,
yes, their back and forth is so funny. It's just I could have watched that for a while.
He's like, I need to go get this approved. It's probably going to take a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, it was like classic road trip movie tropes, but it was good. I mean, again, not the best movie you're gonna watch in your life, but
Almost got a 20.
if you, I'll put it this way: if you're on vacation and you're at the hotel and you're getting ready and you just leave a channel on and it happens to be Identity Thief, you could do worse.
Yeah.
If it's on a channel, Jack, you get one guess. I want you to think of the channel I'm thinking of. What channel is it on?
USA.
That's actually a better answer. I was going to say
TBS.
TBS, yeah.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see either one. Definitely.
Yeah, I think USA is better though. Yeah.
Well, that does it for the movie. Before we go, though, Santi, I always like to test Andy. There's this whole famous game, 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon. Can we tie in a character from this movie that has been in a movie with Kevin Bacon within 6 moves?
Yeah, this one was a little harder than I expected, but I went a weird route. I went with T-1000, whose name is Robert Patrick.
Mm-hmm.
He was in a movie back in the day called Copland, which had like Stallone in it. Robert De Niro was in it. Robert De Niro was in Sleepers with Kevin Bacon.
Bam! Bing, bang, boom.
Wow.
I wonder if you could do it with Melissa McCarthy. Probably.
It was hard. I was trying to do her. I couldn't, because I tried to do them without looking at anything. So I'm sure it could happen. I
feel like Jason Bateman has to have a connection there.
You would think, right? Yeah. I couldn't, because he's been around, but Kevin Bacon was not in Teen Wolf 2, which Bateman was the wolf in Teen Wolf 2.
I feel like there's got to be a Jason Bateman, Brad Pitt movie somewhere.
I'd see that. There's Jason Bateman with Jennifer Aniston.
And Jennifer Aniston
married Brad Pitt.
Yeah, but she's in a movie with him at some point too, right?
I don't know. Angelina Jolie's in a couple movies with Pitt. I don't think Aniston is though.
Huh.
I think Pitt was with Aniston when she was still like, pretty much just doing Friends. Maybe, I don't know.
Well, if you're listening if you're listening on YouTube, leave a comment if you can connect either Jason Bateman or Melissa McCarthy to Kevin Bacon. I was about to say 2 Sleepers.
2 Brad Pitt.
So that does it for us. And that does it for 2013. The next show will be moving to 2014 to chat about Ex Machina. Then we're going to go to 2015 for Southpaw. And then we're going to do 2016's Nice Guys. But that does it for us. I'm Jack Farmer. You can find me at Real Jack Farmer across all social media. Andy Rossi, where can the world find you and everything you're working on?
You can find me at Don Budgie. No, you can find me at just Andy Rossi.
You actually had me there. I was like, oh, okay.
It's so seamless. Don Budgie.
But Santi, where can the world and everyone who's listening, where can they keep up with you and what you're working on?
Really just TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. I'm _Revive. So to play on my last name, it's being Rivera. Revive. But yeah, that's where you can find me. I like doing goofy antics, positive things, all sorts of stuff. So check me out.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for being on. We'll have to do it again sometime. That does it for us, and we'll see all of you next year.